We call it people technology.
インテル入ってる。
Well, that's a proper hammering if you've ever seen one in the IPL. RCB have managed a 10-wicket win over the Rajasthan Royals. They've reclaimed or secured top spot even further. 4 wins out of 4. They're still undefeated, and they resigned Rajasthan Royals to the foot of the table for now. 6,000 IPL runs for Virat Kohli, a maiden IPL 100 for Devdutt Padikkal. It's as good as it gets for Bangalore. This is Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Time Out, powered by Intel. Dan Vettori will be very pleased watching that for his former side. So too Gautam Gambhir. We've also done him the honor, have they, to Dan, to actually have a nice early night. So it's only about 4 a.m. now in Auckland, as against 5:30 or whatever it is.
Keep going, yeah. It's obviously a very happy team with being 4 from 4, but the thing they'll be most happy about is just this collective of performances. It's gone from player to player, from game to game, and there's no one out of the 13 or 14 players that they've picked so far in these 4 games that hasn't stood up and had a performance. And the last player was Padikkal today, and he was exceptional. I hadn't seen him last year, so this is my first time to have a good look at him, and he almost reminds me of Matthew Hayden in some ways, in some of his shot making and the way he stands at the crease. So a very content RCB tonight, knowing that not only they got 4 from 4, but they are playing a very good brand of cricket with all players contributing.
Yeah, that seems like an emphatic win and a message sent to the rest of the IPL. This looks like an RCB team that's hit the season running, Gautam.
Absolutely, very convincing. Can't be more convincing than this. And again, we keep going back to the same thing where once you come back from Chennai on difficult wickets, and suddenly when you come to Wankhede, you would love and cherish it. And that is exactly what Virat Kohli and Padikkal did. And at the same time, got to give credit to the bowlers as well by restricting Rajasthan Royals to 170 odd. That was a fabulous effort by the bowlers, because obviously adjusting to the line and the length and the pace of the wicket, commendable by RCB. And again, it was absolutely ruthless. To be a champion side, it's not about how you win, it's how convincingly you win, because there will be teams who will win games, but they will only scratch through. But look at RCB, they mean business, and all credit goes to to Virat Kohli and the boys.
I don't mean to light the tinderbox, Gautam, but the call to play Shreyas Gopal didn't quite work today.
I don't know. I've answered what I had to. I don't believe in matchups. And see, again, the point is very clear that a lot depends on. That's why I think all these video analysts should stay away as much as they can. Their job is to just probably click on the laptop button and probably let the batters or the bowlers after the game have fun, enjoy the highlights session. And that is how I used to keep them, to be honest. When I was playing for India, I used to only go to them when I used to score runs, and just to watch those 4s and boundaries and 6s so that I can keep getting that confidence. Apart from that, no interaction with them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to go after Shreyas Gopal. It's not his fault that Rajasthan have lost today, but it's just further illustrating a point. Sometimes matchups just don't pay off or don't go or be wrong. That being said, Dan, he did come up against 2 guys that look like they're in pretty good nick.
Yeah, and on a very good wicket. I think we saw a couple of games at Wankhede where the pitch, I suppose, confused us a little bit, but these last few are back to what we expect in high-scoring games, and therefore bowlers have to be at the top of their games. And Shreyas Gopal's coming into this match not at the top of his game, but he was picked because of his performances in the past. So it was a difficult assignment for him, but he wasn't the only one who didn't quite meet his lengths today. The way that Padikkal and Virat played didn't allow Rajasthan to do that. And I think Gautam made the point I think it was in the mid-show around Sanju Samson not being able to play second fiddle, and we got another great example of that with Virat Kohli today. He realised that Padikkal was dominating, and he was going to take on the bowlers, and he fed him the strike and picked up boundaries when he needed to, and that's just a sign of a batsman at the top of his game, a leader at the top of his game, to be able to hand it on to his junior counterpart.
Yeah, we did hear high praise from Dan on Devdutt Padikkal. And got them important innings, albeit in friendlier conditions to bat on than in Chennai. But we have seen Ruturaj Gaikwad not quite start off the season well. When you've had a big IPL season like Padikkal did last year, expectations tend to grow. It would be good for someone like Padikkal to have this sort of innings early in the season.
See, mind you, he had COVID as well. So it's very difficult to
Yes.
come out of COVID and then straight away get into a tournament like IPL. It's always difficult. It's a world-class tournament. It's not like you're playing Syed Mushtaq Ali Estate kind of tournament. You're playing against world-class bowlers on a difficult wicket. And RCB started actually on difficult wickets. They played 3 games at Chennai, which was never easy for any of the batters, even if you're batting at the top of the order. So coming here and making the most of it. See, conditions are same for everyone. Condition was same for Sanju Samson and the Rajasthan batters as well, and even for Virat Kohli. But the way Padikkal batted, the way he dominated, just shows his class. And I'm sure, hopefully, he keeps improving. And obviously, don't get satisfied by 1 or 2 knocks, because if he keeps improving and keep getting those big runs, I think he can achieve a lot going forward in his career. Probably and to go on to probably play for India and achieve a lot for India as well, because he's got all the attributes of being a quality cricketer that he can be, just looking by his skill set. And I'm sure that the work ethics will always be there. Virat Kohli and the group is around him to probably keep him level-headed, and looks like a level-headed boy. I don't know the boy, but he's made the most, and he looks really, really good as a player.
Now, while RCB won 4 out of 4, it looks like Rajasthan Royals critical of their batting. The bowlers also don't get the wickets. What's the takeaway for them, Dan? Go back to the drawing board, because it looks like a team that's losing a bit of confidence in both departments.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think they've had confidence for a number of seasons. It's a team that relies on 1 or 2 players, and they feel like the opposite of RCB at the moment, where RCB has 11 players contributing. They feel like anyone can put a performance together at any time to contribute to a win. At the moment, Rajasthan just feel like they're waiting on Sanju or Joss, and they have the excuse of Archer and Ben Stokes not being there. Now Liam Livingston's left as well. They don't actually have that many options to turn to. So the 11 that they probably played tonight, albeit with 1 or 2 others, is the team that's going to have to push forward for them, and they're going to have to find a way to come together as a team and try and find that win.
That's 2 big defeats back to back, Gautam. Not a good place to be for Rajasthan Royals early in the season.
See, Raunak, there are only 2 ways of looking at things. Either you keep cribbing about it, or you make it as an opportunity for yourself. If you keep cribbing that we've lost Jofra Archer and Ben Stokes in the first game of the competition, then you can probably go down very easily, like how they went down today. Or if you look at the other side of the story, there's a fabulous opportunity for all these guys, because it's a dream for so many people, young cricketers, to play the IPL. And when you get that opportunity, you can make it count, and you can probably achieve such great things. It's not that they're a bad side, but then people like Shreyas Gopal, people like Jaydev Unadkat, people like Sanju Samson, all these guys, Joss Butler, all these guys have been with Rajasthan Royals for not only this year, but over a long period of time. So they should be taking up the responsibility. It's not only about Jofra Archer or Ben Stokes. So these guys have been with the franchise, Rahul Tewatia for that matter. So they've been associated with the franchise for a long time, and they've now become senior players for the franchise. If they don't put their hand up, no one will ever do. I said the same thing during the mid-show. Franchise's job is to give you opportunity. What you make of it is your responsibility. If you keep going down like this, how they went down today, there was no fight altogether. They were absolutely thrashed. So that is serious signs for Rajasthan Royals. Yes, you can get defeated. I've always believed a defeat by 1 run or a defeat by 100 runs is exactly the same, because you don't get any points for trying. But then there was no will to fight. Even the body language was drooping. Even if you see some of the fielders fielding at the boundary, they just gave up so easily. You can have a bad day with the bat, you can have a bad day with the ball, but you can't have a bad day or a bad intensity on the cricket field. That shows the character, and that starts with the captain. It is a captain's responsibility, how he keeps his head up and how he motivates his troops. But today itself, when they got 170, there was nothing from ball 1. They just thought that if hope things can happen, hope we can take a couple of wickets. Hope doesn't get you wickets. Your determination and your attitude does. So there was no attitude, to be honest. They didn't look like a side. It was just like going through the motions, and you don't expect probably a winner. They've been a winner. They've been a one-time champion. You don't expect a champion side to go down so easily. So probably Sangakkara and the management has a lot to think about. Not from the performance point of view, but from the attitude point of view. You can't. Probably attitude has no excuse.
I mean, strong words, but even out these early days, now that we've seen 3 or 4 games from everyone, Dan, it does look like you can make some impressions about teams. And it does look like Rajasthan Royals may not be one of those teams that threaten the top 4, and looks like it's RCB season almost. I know it's very early. You don't like to look at tables after 4 games, but you can make some impressions on teams at this stage.
I think you can make impressions on the winning teams around how they've performed and how they've got to those positions. And I think RCB and CSK and Delhi Capitals have shown enough to have confidence that they can continue on in that manner for the rest of the tournament. And you'd say the same about Mumbai, albeit that they've only won half their games. The other four teams are the ones that obviously have to show something to get themselves out of their current situation. And we've seen it in IPLs in the past that a poor start to the season doesn't necessarily lead to a terrible season. Teams can bounce back and teams can build so much from one win, but it's getting that one win that's the hardest. And at the moment, it looks like Rajasthan would be a long way away from finding that one win. And it may come through some individual performance, but the teams that break through after that one win are the ones that come together as a team. And so they're going to need a lot of contributions. They're going to need their senior players, particularly Butler, Sampson, David Miller, to step up, and then hopefully they get some complementary performances from some of their younger guys, albeit that they are experienced.
All right. Before we wrap things up, there'd be a lot of excited RCB fans, and rightly so. 4 wins out of 4 is a huge advantage, isn't it, Gautam? We keep discussing that 8-game mark, 16 points is enough to get you to the playoffs. So they've given themselves a lot of breathing room. But from what you've seen, is this the season for RCB? Could this be their season?
They were in my top 4.
Don't do it, Raunak.
Yes, Gautam.
I just said that I predicted them in my top 4. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I can't say whether this is going to be their season, but yes, I'm sure. I think they've got all the attributes and they've got all the options. It's good to have this kind of option, and it was probably this end had to get over once. One day, probably this could be the year. If not this year, probably next year, but will end one day.
No, they won it this year. I don't think they want to start this again next year. Dan Vettori knows what it's like to come so close for RCB and still not get over the line. This is the year. Come on, Dan. This is the year.
Oh, it does feel. It feels good from the perspective of, like I talked about, how many people are actually performing. Where RCB teams in the past have been 1 or 2 performances, something special from AB or Virat, and then middling performances the rest of the time. This time around, it's so far it's been so many amazing performances. We've talked a lot about Maxwell, but you can think of Harshal Patel. I think Mohammad Siraj has been fantastic. Cole Jamieson, we've barely spoken about him. He's had a reasonable start to the tournament. And then Devdutt Padikal today. So you couldn't be more confident as an RCB supporter at this stage, but it is 4 games. You get to that 16 points like you spoke about, and then the playoffs, and then you start talking about it then.
All right, fair enough. Thank you very much, Dan Vettori, Gautam Gambhir. Cracker lined up for RCB next up against CSK in an afternoon game at the Wankhede, and Rajasthan and KKR, 2 teams also in similar situations, face off in a couple of days' time. So 2 good games coming up over the next few days, and do join us for that, as well as the Punjab-Mumbai one tomorrow on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by Intel. Until then, it's good night.
We call it people technology.
インテル入ってる